Good evening and welcome to California Today. I'm David Lamb. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. The association head for LA Deputy District Attorney says they are recalling the district attorney because of his failed policies and a rise in crime. He said this is the first time the association has tried to recall a DA. LA's city controller warned of the slow progress on a proposition to house the homeless. His warning comes as the city began its point-in-time homeless count, which it skipped last year. And an Orange County city is looking into purifying salt water with only renewable energy. The plan is part of a new power system certain cities in the county are using, supplied totally from renewable sources. 30 years ago, a Los Angeles man was sentenced to death, robbing and shooting a father of 3. Now the district attorney is planning to drop the murderer's death sentence. The family feels abandoned. A DA Association leader explains why cases like these are driving the push to recall the DA.
Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon is planning to resentence a man who murdered another man 30 years ago. His leniency towards criminals have fueled a movement to recall him. Nearly 98% of the LA prosecutors who participated in a vote support the recall of Gascon over his crime policies. Over 80% of the lawyers voted, the highest turnout the organization has ever seen.
Felons with firearms are not considered serious or violent under the California Penal Code, but we all know what they are. They are serious crimes. Under his bail policies, those people are getting released immediately. So by the time that the police officer writes the report, that defendant who had a gun, who put everyone's life in danger, that defendant is walking out of a police station.
In January 1992, 21-year-old Scott Forrest Collins was sentenced to death for robbing and shooting 41-year-old Fred Rose, a father of 3. The victim's family was told Collins would be resentenced to life without the possibility of parole, which means he would never leave prison but also not be on death row. The family is against the decision and was told there may not be a hearing.
It's not really about the death penalty. It's about where will this stop. If they can commute the death sentence, they can commute life in prison without parole down the line.
Since Gascon took office, he has come up with many policies with a goal to remove the death sentence. This includes reviewing existing death sentences. Siddle sees Gascon's policies as a huge social experiment that needs to end, and is calling on the public to recall the DA.
We deal with the victims. We see our victims. To not be able to say to your victim that I'm going to get you justice and I'm not going to fight for you 100%. And the fact that these victims have to go get their own lawyers to protect their interests is deeply upsetting to most prosecutors.
Siddle said this is the first time the Association of District Attorneys have tried to recall a DA.
The Senate Minority Leader has introduced bills to call for more government accountability after changes initiated during lockdowns. One bill is focused on restricting companies being given contracts secretly as a reward for large payments.
Senate Republican Minority Leader Scott Wilk introduced a bill that would prohibit state departments from approving so-called no-bid contracts under certain situations. Wilk told the Epoch Times in a statement that SB 1367 specifically cracks down on awarding massive no-bid state contracts to companies that have made donations to charities on behalf of the governor. He introduced the bill after companies like Facebook, Google, and Blue Shield contributed more than $200 million to Governor Gavin Newsom's government in 2021. Wilk says the practice has eroded the public's trust in the government's ability to discern potential conflicts of interest with donors. Senate Bill 1367, introduced last week, seeks to address what Wilk calls pay-to-play. He cites it as an increasing use of secretive no-bid contracting. The LA Times reported in April 2021 that during pandemic lockdowns, companies behested millions of dollars to support the governor's initiatives, including homelessness and a massive COVID-19 public safety campaign. Wilk's bill is part of his Government Accountability Package, a series of bill proposals that seek to crack down, he says, on California's alleged unethical government practices and to preserve public trust. He said contracts should be awarded on merit and not political connections. Current state laws let companies applying for no-bid contracts to not face the pressure of competition.
2 counties in the state had maintained their indoor mask mandates until today. Los Angeles has updated its masking mandates, lowering restrictions as hospitalizations plummet. Los Angeles County began easing its mask mandates for indoor settings. As of Friday, people who have received jabs can unmask indoors. The county listed restaurants, bars, and other businesses as safe to unmask if people show proof of receiving jabs. The county continues to mandate other customers to continue to wear masks. The county's change comes after both cases and hospitalizations related to the CCP virus, also known as COVID-19, dropped significantly. LA County lagged behind the rest of the state in easing its lockdown restrictions. Santa Clara County is the only one which still requires universal indoor masking. Los Angeles's housing program has more problems than it does progress, according to a recent report. The report found costs are too high and improvement is too slow.
A report from the Los Angeles City Controller found that problems overshadow the progress of a housing program from 2016. The $1.2 billion program, titled Proposition HHH, aimed to build 10,000 housing units for homeless individuals. Controller Ron Galperin said in a Wednesday report that the project is moving too slow to address homelessness in the city. The program has completed over 1,100 units, about 16% of the intended number, in 6 years. Galperin said the costs are too high and the pace is too slow to address the tragedy on our streets. He said the costs per unit is now around $600,000, up from $530,000 2 years ago. Galperin added that over half of the units will not be ready for occupancy for another 2 to 4 years. On top of that, construction is too slow. Los Angeles saw a 40% increase in the homeless population from 2016 to 2020. The city controller recommended several methods to increase efficiency, like repurposing existing buildings rather than building new ones. He warned if the city doesn't learn from its mistakes, it risks repeating them. On the same day, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti said that the proposition is producing more units than promised at a lower cost than expected. The 2022 homeless count is now underway, and results are expected in the coming months.
2 United States Postal Service workers recently pleaded guilty to unemployment fraud. The 2 Angelenos are now facing home detention and monetary restitution.
A former United States Postal Service clerk pleaded guilty on February 24th to committing unemployment benefits fraud. Armand Lagarde, 33, of Inglewood, California, obtained 9 State Employment Development Department, or EDD, debit cards from unidentified people. The cards were issued for unemployment insurance benefits between August 2020 and February 2021, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Lagarde now faces 3 years of probation, 1 year of home detention, and is ordered to pay over $160,000 in restitution. Defense attorney Megan Blanco said Mr. Lagarde understood that the checks were likely fraudulent and that they were returned after being delivered to fake or non-existent addresses. Just down the road at another USPS office, Christian James, 32, pleaded guilty to a similar charge. According to the California District Attorney's Office, James used at least 8 EDD debit cards in other people's names last year. He has been sentenced to probation in order to pay $142,000 in restitution.
A pipe bomb exploded in a San Diego hotel on Thursday night. Police reported no injuries. Officers reported that the bomb went off on the 2nd floor of the 4 Points Sheraton Hotel at 10:18 a.m. The hotel property sustained minor damage. There were no witnesses. Investigators are searching for suspects. They have released images of 2 men who are persons of interest. Coming up, voters graded how the state's public schools are doing. The marks are much worse than the last poll from a decade ago. Many voters lost faith in the schooling system after pandemic lockdowns. One of the largest pipe organs in the world is returning to its home in Orange County. The massive instrument was shipped overseas for 10 years worth of repairs. And these rare strawberries are imported from Japan. But even though they're costly, locals still pay a pretty penny for them. That and more on NTD News. A recent poll asked California voters to grade public schools' performance. Residents' confidence in public education has taken a big hit after pandemic lockdowns.
According to a new study, faith in California quality of public education overwhelmingly dropped in the wake of pandemic lockdowns. The UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies, along with the Los Angeles Times, polled voters to grade schools from A to F. 21% of voters gave the state's public schools either an A or B. 28% gave a D or an F. The change in failing grades is a stark contrast to 10 years ago. A similar poll had only 13% of voters giving failing grades in 2011. 72% of voters said the quality of education has declined since pandemic lockdowns. The poll indicated a wider sense of distrust and dissatisfaction. Additionally, voters were also divided along party lines for teachers' unions. One half of voters said unions were too powerful, resist reforms that would improve schools, and prioritize teachers over students. The other half said the unions strive to help teachers. Voters were also close to evenly split on supporting or opposing standardized testing.
A new bill would increase requirements for testing drivers who are fatally injured in crashes for drug use. The senator who proposed the bill said it would help law enforcement better understand recreational drug use.
Law enforcement would be required to test for drug use after a fatal vehicle collision under a newly proposed California bill. Senator Patricia Bates, representing Laguna Niguel, proposed Senate Bill 925 after a large number of fatally injured drivers tested positive for substances after crashes. In a February 23rd statement, Bates said it is becoming increasingly common for drivers involved in fatal collisions to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. She said last year that over half of the fatally injured drivers in Orange County had at least one substance in their system and that current laws only test for alcohol. She said, testing for drugs in fatal collisions allows us to more accurately understand the modern use of prescription and recreational drugs. The testing time would also extend from 24 hours to 48 hours. If a driver dies within 48 hours of a traffic incident, then they would be tested for substances. The bill is sponsored by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Don Barnes said the expanded testing can provide valuable information to lawmakers. Currently, Orange and San Francisco are the only two counties that screen for drugs in victims of fatal collisions.
At Vandenberg Space Force Base, SpaceX successfully launched 50 more Starlink satellites into orbit using its reusable Falcon 9 rocket. The launch comes after most of the previous delivery was lost due to solar activity. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Falcon 9, Starlink 4.11.
On Friday morning, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 50 more satellites for the company's Starlink internet service. Shortly after 9 a.m., a webcast showed the launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base. About an hour later, the satellites can be seen being deployed into space. Each satellite has its own thrusters that will be used over the coming weeks to position themselves into their operational orbits. This is Starlink's 8th launch this year and comes a couple weeks after the company lost 40 satellites to a geomagnetic storm. Starlink is an internet provider that brings service to underserved areas across the globe using a constellation of low Earth orbit satellites. The SpaceX-operated company currently has almost 2,000 satellites orbiting 340 miles above the Earth. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
A Southern California city is looking to build a water purification plant, wholly powered with green energy. The proposal comes after the city recently moved to power its grid completely from renewable sources.
Orange County announced this week the development of a seawater desalination plant powered completely by renewable energy. Officials said it will be the first of its kind in the Western Hemisphere. Orange County Power Authority officials and Poseidon Water, a desalination developer, signed a non-binding agreement planning to investigate the feasibility of renewable power sources. The plant is expected to be built in Huntington Beach and would use 19 gigawatts per month. It would be one of the largest energy consumers in the county. Sourcing reusable energy comes from the Power Authority's Community Choice Program. The program buys and sells energy from neighboring cities. Historically, much of Southern California has relied on Southern California Edison for electricity needs. Though the authority promised cheap and green energy, prices are currently 5.6% higher than Edison's. 3 other cities have joined Huntington Beach in the program, including Irvine, Buena Park, and Fullerton.
A bear who has been burglarizing Lake Tahoe homes has been somewhat overestimated. Hank the Tank, as the 500-pound black bear is known, has partners in crime. According to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, DNA evidence suggests that Hank is but one of at least 3 black bears. They originally said Hank was extremely food habituated. Now they're calling on the South Lake Tahoe community to assist in finding the Tank trio. The department hopes to trap, tag, and relocate the bear team. A famous organ is back home after nearly 10 years of repairs. The instrument is one of the largest in the world, and it has finally returned to a cathedral in Orange County.
The Hazel Wright organ was disassembled piece by piece in 2013 and removed from Christ Cathedral in Southern California's Orange County. From there, it was shipped to Italy for repair. At the time, the 5th largest pipe organ in the world was suffering from a bug infestation, and still worse, its pipes were melted and trumpets corroded.
This organ went under renovations for about 5 to 10 years. Most of it was shipped all the way back to Italy, which is really cool. So the original Italians who built the thing actually went through and restored each pipe.
Nearly a decade and $3 million later, Hazel was back in the fully remodeled sanctuary.
What every organist dreams of is an instrument that's as big and exciting as this, but also as beautiful and intimate as this instrument can get. So in terms of serving the Catholic liturgy, that means you can accompany one single singer or lead the whole congregation in some wonderful hymn.
Its rehabilitation has been an arduous process. After extensive work at the factory in Italy, the pieces were shipped back to Orange County.
You really can get the full surround sound effect in this, which is really unique to this space. You get surround sound organ here.
Piero Ruffati originally built Hazel, and in late 2019 returned for the reinstallation. In its current iteration, the organ has some 17,000 pipes and 293 ranks. It's the largest pipe organ in a Roman Catholic cathedral in the Western Hemisphere. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A nice ripe strawberry is a deep shade of sweet red, right? But have you heard of white strawberries? These imported strawberries are so popular that shops can't keep up with demand.
We normally see red strawberries in the US, but some locals have been wanting to try white strawberries, but they've been sold out.
The Awayuki strawberry is a premium white strawberry highly prized for its aroma, flavor, appearance, and texture. And at the local Nigia market in Northern California, it's sold out about an hour after the store opened.
Yeah, I came here about 2 weeks ago, and I came at noon, and they open at 9, but they were all sold out already of the strawberries, so they told me to come back today, so I'm back here trying to get some more strawberries. So.
A pack of 11 strawberries would cost you nearly $28. That's over $2 per berry.
Thank you very much. I don't want this one. I didn't realize how expensive they were. I'm only gonna get one. I don't know if someone wants that one.
I thought, maybe this one time, because it's not a common thing. It's only here like once or twice, I think, a year.
And the red Amayo strawberry is popular in Japan. It is sweeter than regular strawberries in America.
How do you think it would taste?
I think it's just gonna taste like heavenly and super sweet.
She told NTD she's seen them with a price tag of $40 elsewhere.
So I love the idea of strawberries and I love strawberry flavored things, but I've never liked actual strawberries here in the US because they're so bitter and sour at times. So when I found out about these and like how sweet they are, I just really wanted to try them.
The store assistant told NTD the white strawberries are from Tamina in Kumamoto Prefecture in Kyushu area of Japan. Even though she's from Japan, she said she has never tried them herself.
I'm hoping more sweet than our normal strawberries we get here. Really juicy, I'm going for. And I'm really excited. My wife's going to be happy when I wake her up right now to say I got her some white strawberries.
According to strawberryplants.org, a website about growing strawberries, a protein allows the berries to turn red as they mature. White strawberries tend to be deficient or completely lack this protein, so they don't have the ability to turn red. Yeah, so it's really sweet and definitely has a nice scent to it as well. So these Awayuki strawberries get their unique color due to restricting sunlight during its growing process. And in Japan, they can be served with condensed milk while eating. Now, the manager with the Nijiya market told us that they're expecting another shipment as early as this weekend. David Lamb, NTD News, California. Now for a sports update from NTD's Thomas Christian.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup.
A war in Ukraine rages, the effects already being felt at home. Sacramento Kings center Alex Len, along with Toronto Raptors Fee Mikhailiuk, both hail from the Ukraine. Last night, the NBA got back into action for the first time since the All-Star break, honoring the players and their families that could be affected by the conflict.
Just to show that, it's a very positive, peaceful thing, two teams coming together, we stand with Alex Len, our brother, we support him, and we want to know that we're there for him.
The NBA's two Ukrainian players issued a joint statement on Twitter before the game to voice their concern over Russia's invasion, offering support for their homeland. The Sacramento Kings and Denver Nuggets held a moment of silence in a show of solidarity with the people of Ukraine on Thursday. The players linked arms with Kings Ukrainian center Alex Len before the game at the Golden One Center. The Sacramento Kings have since thrown their full support behind Alex Len following the Russian invasion on Wednesday. Kings interim coach Alvin Gentry started his pregame press conference on Thursday by sharing that the team held a meeting in support of Len.
And this is something that, the whole team said they would like to do. And, Alex is so well respected on this team. And like I said, our main concern is that, his family and everybody is safe. And we're going to support him in every way that we possibly can to help him get through this.
Lakers superstar LeBron James is listed as questionable to play tonight against the Clippers coming out of the All-Star break. Likely following a trend for the 37-year-old, any small injury will be dealt with the utmost caution so as to keep James's career going as long as possible. We last saw the Lakers superstar set a career high in minutes played during the All-Star game and hit the game-winning shot over Team Durant. He was not named the All-Star MVP, however, as Stephen Curry took the award home after he hit 16 three-pointers. The Lakers currently sit at 9th place in the Western Conference with a record of 27-31. They've gone 3-7 in their last 10 games amid a disappointing season that started out with title aspirations.
As always, I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all that we have for you tonight. We'd love to have you back on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Feel free to let us know if you have any news tips for our show. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our website. I'm David Lamb. We'll see you next time.